I know I'm going to anger some fans on both sides of the prequel debate by saying this, but though I like the prequels and highly enjoy them, I've always felt like they're a few scenes away from true greatness. Yes, you may think they're great as is and don't need a single thing fixed or changed or added. Or you might believe there are far more problems with them and that a few scenes added could hardly fix anything. But for me anyway, my only real gripe with the prequels is the lack of explanation for some things. Or maybe I should say, not highlighting certain aspects of the story, like not fully showing how much of an evil genius Palpatine truly is, and how everything that transpired in those movies was because of him. Because I think if people knew just how badly Anakin was manipulated by Palpatine at every single turn, he'd be much more of a sympathetic character. Now, I know it's not a new theory or debate, but I personally think it's pretty clear Palpatine was responsible for Padme's death. And not only that, but he was causing the visions Anakin had about her dying in childbirth in the first place. And I think there's more than enough evidence to support both those claims. For one, right before Anakin realizes that Palpatine is the Sith Lord, Palpatine tells him that he can teach him how to save his wife from certain death. Which leads us to the question, how did Palpatine know Anakin had been dreaming about Padme's death? Well, either he could sense his fear about it, which is certainly possible, or he was the one causing him to have those nightmares in the first place, using some type of Sith Sorcery, which was something we saw Palpatine partake in during the Clone Wars animated series. And I also think that Palpatine knew that not only was Anakin's fear for losing Padme the quickest, easiest way to turn him to the dark side, but that it was his plan to use it all along, and was even, to some degree, responsible for the relationship between Padme and Anakin. I also think it's pretty clear that Palpatine has to be the one that actually killed Padme, that she didn't die of a broken heart. Because remember in that first scene where Vader wakes up and he's in the suit, Palpatine tells Vader that, in his anger, he killed Padme. But how would Palpatine know that for sure, that she was even dead? Perhaps he could sense her death through the Force, sure, but I think it's much more likely that he was simply the one that caused it. But how did he actually do that? Because if Palpatine is powerful enough to sense and kill people through the Force, then why didn't he use that ability more often? Now, to explain how he actually killed her, and to add some more depth to the story, all we'd really need to do is add one scene to Attack of the Clones, and that would be a scene that we already know happened but wasn't shown, that being when Palpatine ordered Padme to go under the protection of the Jedi and leave Coruscant. And recall that during Attack of the Clones, even though there have been attempts on her life, Padme does not want to run and hide before the Republic's Military Creation Act is voted on because she so strongly opposes it. Which, of course, is one reason why Palpatine didn't want her around for that vote and was the real culprit behind the attempts on Padme's life. Attempts he also purposely sabotaged, I believe, because he didn't really want her dead, just out of the way and into the arms of Anakin. Because no doubt Anakin had talked about his feelings for Padme to Palpatine over the years, and thus Palpatine knew that she could be used to ultimately turn Anakin to the dark side. He just needed to get them together somehow. So what better way to do all that than to have Dooku set up attempts on Padme's life, but to undermine those attempts by having someone tip them off ahead of time and warn them of the danger. Remember at the start of Attack of the Clones, right after they land and moments before the ship blows up, Captain Typho says to the disguised Padme that he guesses they were wrong and there was no real danger. Now, where do you think that warning ultimately originated from? No doubt from Palpatine, who wanted her life to be in jeopardy, but not to actually kill her, again wanting her to ultimately end up in the company of Anakin. And in basically the next scene, it's Palpatine who not only suggests Jedi protection for Padme, but that it be an old friend such as Kenobi. And of course where Kenobi goes, Anakin would follow. So keeping all that in mind, that Palpatine had set up everything from the purposely failed assassination attempts to Obi-Wan being the one put in charge for protection, we then could have a scene of Padme being summoned to Palpatine's office, one where he's going to, if need be, order her to leave Coruscant and take the protection of the Jedi. And because of him recently popping back up in her life, what if Padme showed up to that meeting wearing the necklace Anakin had made her during Episode 1, the Jasper Snippet as it's called? And then at one point during that ensuing conversation, Palpatine could ask her if that's the necklace Anakin gave her. Padme would of course be surprised that he even knew Anakin had given her a necklace in the first place, but confirms that yes it is. And to that surprised confusion, Palpatine would explain that he and Anakin have formed a friendship, and one of the many things Anakin talks about is her. Padme would then try to change the topic, but Palpatine would go on to casually comment that he's not even sure that Anakin is fit to be a Jedi, that his love and loyalty to those he cares about is too great, and Jedi are not supposed to have attachments. And yet it's those attachments that make Anakin the great young man that he is, which is a line that could also show just how similar Anakin and Luke truly are, and why Palpatine would later believe the same tricks that worked to turn Anakin to the dark side would work on Luke. In other words, exploiting that weakness that was his faith in his friends, which is exactly what Palpatine tells Luke his greatest weakness is in Return of the Jedi. Anyway, Palpatine could go on to tell Padme that even Anakin isn't sure the life of a Jedi is what he wants, that at times he talks about what if he chose a different path, or just walked away from it all. That's when Palpatine will wistfully add that he's not sure he chose the right path in life, for politics is a lonely, all-consuming career, and there has to be more to life than this. This, of course, is all meant to get the wheels churning in Padme's head about Anakin and what she's doing with her own life and if she's wasting it, and it's also to distract her. And while she's distracted by all these thoughts, Palpatine asks if he can see the necklace. Absently, Padme will say yes and hand it over to him. He'll make some comment about his old eyes and how he needs to take it over to the light, and brings it to the window, keeping his back to her. That's when he'll mutter some dark words over it, and his eyes will briefly go Sith yellow, and use some sort of Sith sorcery to enchant the necklace. He then takes it back over to Padme, commenting about how Jasper snippets are supposed to bring their wearers good fortune. Padme will smile and tell him that's exactly what Anakin said when he first gave it to her. Palpatine will then smile back and say it probably goes doubly so for one carved by someone so powerful with the Force. Padme looks a little bit amused by that and asks if he really believes that a necklace could bring her good fortune. Palpatine will act surprised that she doesn't seem to believe and ask how she could doubt such things considering all she's seen the Jedi do already in her young life. He'll then get very serious and tell her to keep it with her always, even if she doesn't always wear it. The Force is very much real, he'll explain to her, as is the good fortune that necklace will bring her. That's where the scene could end, and we'll all have one more reason to both hate and appreciate Palpatine's evil genius. So yes, I'm implying here that perhaps Palpatine did something to the necklace Anakin gave Padme, and then convinced her to keep it with her always, and through it he may have been able to keep tabs on her, and ultimately, when the time was right, even kill her, thus cementing Anakin's fall to the dark side. It also explains what actually killed Padme, that it wasn't a broken heart, but was indeed the work of Palpatine, and that having her fall in love with Anakin, and then using that love and her death to turn him to the dark side, was Palpatine's plan all along. Finally, it gives that moment during Padme's funeral at the end of Revenge of the Sith, when they focus on the necklace, a whole new meaning, because we'll know that Palpatine used Anakin's first gesture of kindness to Padme as a means to kill her. Well, that's all I got for you this time. Now it's your turn to let me know what you think. Did Palpatine kill Padme? Or did she really die of a broken heart? Or perhaps there's another explanation entirely. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and let's talk some Star Wars. And if you liked this video, check out some of my other ones, or go ahead and subscribe. If you've already done all that, then thanks for your continued support. If you want to know when I upload new videos, hit the notification button, or just follow me on Twitter. And as always, thanks for watching.